Okay, we have been resubmitted a case. I believe if you remember, we had submitted a case with immediate extraction with an implant plan, and I had made comments that we needed the site to heal, and the person submitting the case had sent in the wrong DICOM data, so they wanted to resubmit it. So here is the case, and now that the tooth site is healed, we're ready to place the implant, and we're ready to get this going. So, as usual, I want to again evaluate that this is a great case for an OptiGuide, simply because of essentially all natural teeth that were good. In an ideal situation, OptiGuide, we would have this distal stop here, so our CEREC data would extend from tooth number 32 to over to at least tooth number 20, 21, ideally number 19. In this particular case, they captured the entire arch, which is fantastic. So that gives us a very good base to stabilize the guide. We have a CEREC design there, and now we're kind of ready to move forward. So I want to focus on our CEREC design first in this particular case, and what I want to talk about again is my I guess you call it analness about being real critical about having our CEREC design as ideal as possible. So what I'm seeing here, what needs to be improved on this design, again, it won't really matter that much here, but I would like it to be better, is here's our gingival margin, and here's where our gingival margin was drawn for the adjacent tooth. And if we follow our gingival margin everywhere else, we can see, so green represents where we have it now, and let's use magenta to where I would have drawn this gingival margin in my CEREC design process. And the reason this becomes important is when we're planning, I like to visualize the emergence, where the implant needs to be placed to be able to develop proper emergence without creating a ledge or a plaque trap. And if we design a virtual tooth incorrectly, then that can be a problem for us. And the same thing will apply on the lingual, but here on the lingual we can actually see that this one was designed quite nicely. Again, it could probably be, a hair up, but this is more than adequate here on the lingual. So I wanted to point that out. So we've been planned for a Nobel Active 11.5 millimeter implant. Make the assumption that the patient can open real wide. If the patient was limited opening, maybe we'd go to a 10 millimeter implant, but 11.5 is more than adequate. There would be no reason to go to anything longer, although we could. So if our inventory was low, I'd like to just plan what cases can be done, so I know kind of what to expect. So, in this case, we could do a 13 millimeter implant. Now, as I'm working on this, I want to point out something that may not be anything, but it could be something that could affect how I design my implant here, just from the perspective of size. So here, let me change colors so we can see this a little bit better. Here is our nerve right down here, and we can kind of see that there's a branch right here. Now this could be coincidental that this branch comes off as a medullary cavity, just looks kind of like it's connected, but to me that looks, as we rotate around, looks a little connected to me. So there's a chance that this is a split of the inferior alveolar nerve. So what I would probably do in this particular case is when we look in cross section here, we can kind of see potentially something right here in addition to our big main nerve right there. So I would definitely probably not mess with this. So in this particular case, I would definitely stick down to a 11.5 and maybe even a 10 millimeter implant. Given the size of the jaw and size of the person, I would probably go for the 11.5 millimeter implant. But I digress a little bit, but I was just noticing that. And that's why I really promote this 360 view, using the slider to go through our volume quite nicely. To just look at everything. So now let's go ahead and focus on our implant plan. Our plan looks to be pretty reasonable. There are a few minor tweaks that we need to make. First, Mesiodistally, everything looks good. Buccal lingually, everything looks good. Bone level wise, I think we look good right here. No problem there. Anatomical structures we've got covered, all of those things. And here you can also see what I was talking about earlier with the buccal margin having been drawn this far out. It's unlikely that we're going to make a contour like this here. So my guess is our buccal margin really is going to end up here where the green line is, just like so. And that's a little bit easier contour to develop and keep clean. Bone level I think is very nice. I would like to see our sleeve here. So to see the sleeve, we'll go to the implant tab, our sleeve button, change, and this is a Nobel, so we should select the Nobel sleeve. Click OK, and now we can see our sleeve. Now we can evaluate, is the sleeve hitting the tissue, and it's not. The other reason I like to see the sleeve is it gives me a good idea of where I am centered wise. So here we can see we're pretty well centered on the tooth mesiodistally, maybe just a hair to the lingual buccally. But remember, I also said that I believe we designed this tooth a little bit to the buccal, just like so. So, that is probably actually correct. The other thing that I use to help me decide if I'm designed correctly is I will use the adjacent central grooves. So here in green, I'm going to trace the adjacent central grooves, like so. And I would probably just put a line right there. And we can see again here that our central groove that is designed virtually is a little bit to the buccal. So, all these things can add up and make a difference in our plan, and I really want us to focus on being more accurate there. Our occlusal plane is off here. We can see that this is tilted up. We can see here that is tilted up. So I would want to rotate this. I know that rotating it to the distal will bring that down about like so. And that looks more flat and level, more in line with the curve of Spee. So by doing that now, what we've done is we've moved this plan over to the distal. So I would just need to bodily move our implant back to the center there, kind of like so, and probably something along those lines. And now I would probably get that centered a little bit there to the lingual, knowing that our design was slightly flawed there. And here, now we're ready to go. So hopefully this has been helpful, and the next step would be to order your surgical guide. Thank you for your case submission.